Grumpy Gus, they called him. "I haven't drank in years, and you know it." Gus's jowls jiggled like small water balloons on either side of his face. "Can't a fella just take a nap on his front porch?" He waved a dismissive hand at Lizzie. "Get on back to your house and leave me alone." Esther had been playing referee between Lizzie and Gus since before their mother died 4 years ago. The man was unpleasant to most everyone, but he and Lizzie butted heads the most. Gus had always treated their mother with respect when she was alive. Maybe because he needed a place to live and their mother didn't charge him much to rent the cottage. Esther wished Gus didn't know about the promise they'd made her. He seemed to think he could treat her and Lizzie any way he wanted. Some days he was downright nasty. Other times, Esther swore she saw a tiny glimpse of what Gus might have been like at another time. Almost kind. "We just came to tell you that we have overnight guests coming." Lizzie's mouth thinned with displeasure. "So don't come calling for anything." Gus groaned as he stretched and yawned. "I ain't got no business at your place." He grinned before he winked at Lizzie. "I think you just make up excuses to come see me." Esther covered her mouth with her hand, attempting to stifle a giggle. Lizzie was sure to go off on him now. Lizzie clenched her fists at her sides, her nostrils flaring. She opened her mouth to say something, but slammed it shut. After staring at her bare feet for a few seconds, she slowly lifted her chin and stretched to appear taller. "The good Lord is punishing me for something." She shook her head again. "Because not a day goes by that you don't irritate the daylights out of me." Spinning on her heels, she marched down the porch steps. "You gonna head over to John and Mary's place now?" Gus had a deep voice, and whether he was angry or not, and he was usually angry, his voice had an air of authority that didn't fit the man he was. "You gonna go kick them too?" John and Mary Lapp had moved to Montgomery for a job opportunity recently and were renting the third house on the property. They were a sweet young couple who had been married for 5 years. They stayed to themselves a lot, but they waved and were friendly to guests who came to stay at the main house. The same couldn't be said about Gus. Folks would wave or call out a pleasant greeting if Gus was on the porch and awake. He would wave them off, grumbling as he stood up, then he'd slam the door when he went in the house. It wasn't the impression Esther and Lizzie wanted for their guests. Lizzie didn't answer as she continued walking back to the main house. "Have a good evening, Gus." Esther had learned it was better not to engage Gus in conversation, but she refused to let her manners slip just because he didn't have any. Growling, Gus went inside the house and slammed the door. Esther followed the worn path back to the house she and Lizzie had grown up in. A few months ago, they'd turned the 100-year-old home into a bed and breakfast. Business was slow so far, but word was spreading. Some of their patrons were Amish folks visiting friends or relatives. Others were English tourists who said they wanted to live like the Amish. Esther hoped the cooler temperatures October brought would also bring more guests. July and August had been unusually hot. And while the English might think they want to live like the Amish, they don't want to live without air conditioning. Esther didn't see what all the fuss was about with outsiders showing such an interest in the way they lived, but Lizzie insisted Montgomery was slowly bringing in more and more tourists. As Esther walked up the porch steps, she wondered if they'd ever have much business. Turning the house into a bed and breakfast hadn't been about the money. After their mother died, the home sat vacant for almost 4 years. They paid a caretaker who tended to the house and yard since they hadn't been able to face selling it. They both thought Gus should do the work, but he insisted he had a bad back that prevented him from strenuous activity. In truth, the man was just lazy. Esther had seen him carry huge armfuls of chopped wood into his house for the fireplace. His back seemed just fine when it suited his own needs. But when Esther's and Lizzie's husbands died within a few months of each other last year, they sold their houses and moved back into their family home. It was Lizzie's idea to have the house remodeled to accommodate guests. Esther shared her sister's passion for the project. It provided a reprieve from their grief and opportunities to play matchmaker. Single Amish visitors from other communities could be introduced to the unattached young people in Montgomery, which was too small to offer many options for courting. Esther and Lizzie had been known to dabble in people's love lives, but now it was like having a full-time job, a sense of purpose again. If there was a downside, it was